So here's a quick review of the Etekcity Laser Grip 630, and this is a infrared thermometer. So I bought this actually used on Amazon. As you can see, there's the Amazon warehouse deals sticker over there. I think for less than $20, and this actually retails for about $24 with Amazon Prime. I'll post a link below on where to get it, and it's a very useful unit if you are looking for a infrared thermometer. So I'm not going to do any unboxing because there's nothing in the box besides the thermometer and the user manual and a warranty info card. So pretty straightforward on the user manual as well. I'm just going to show you guys what is on the actual laser thermometer. So this is a 16:1 I guess 16:1 ratio laser spot meter. So that 16:1 actually is the measuring of the distance between where the laser is most accurate. And this one also features a dual laser capability. So when you turn it on, you can see on the instruction over here, it actually have two laser beams that focuses onto one spot, which is about 1.6 or it says 360 millimeters away. That's where the center of the spot is, and then the measuring spot just gets larger and larger, so up to 700 millimeters, and that spot is about 50 millimeter in diameter. So look closely, and this is I'm not sure which class of the laser it is, but don't ever point laser, any kind of laser, into people's eyes. So this have a built-in laser. I'm just gonna turn it on. So very easy to turn on. Just press the button and it turns on. It turns on for 15 seconds and then it turns itself off. There's no feature to keep the unit on always unless you keep pressing the button. So there are very simple 5-button setup. So over here is your trigger. You press the trigger when the unit is off to turn it on, and once it's on, you keep pressing it to get a continuous temperature reading. And once you release your trigger, it have that hold button on top, which means the value is hold over there. You press again to release the hold, and then take a new reading. So I actually already compared this laser spot meter with the my actual physical thermometer, a kitchen thermometer, and what I did is I actually just put a glass of ice water in there, and then I just measured the surface temperature of the ice water, and it actually reads at around 0 Celsius degrees, which is the temperature of the ice and water mixture. It actually has a very similar readout compared to my the kitchen thermometer. So I would say both units are actually pretty accurate in terms of the accuracy. So again, back to the buttons. So 5-button setup. So this button is to trigger the laser and turn it on and read out and lock it. And on the back are your 4 buttons that does a few different things. I'll show you guys. So you turn the laser on and you keep pressing it. It have that little spot. So depending on your distance, you go closer. So that's where the measuring is most focused, the most concentrated. And if you see the distance is not too far, it's about like a foot away. Yeah, it's about a foot away. That's where the laser is most concentrated. So if you go a little further, the spot gets bigger, and that's where the laser is actually measuring. So if you go to the wall over there, so it's measuring a quite large area at this distance, which is about, I think, 4 or 5 foot away. So the reason I bought this one is actually to use it to measure the temperature of the oil when we are about to fry stuff. So I just measure the surface temperature of the oil, and it actually helps us to quickly know when it's time to cook, put this stuff into the fryer. Okay, and so the mode button, there are a few different modes. So right now it's in the HAL mode, which is the high temperature alert mode. If you press so in this mode, you set a temperature using the value button over here, up and down. And once a laser detects that value, it makes a beep. And if you press again, you go into low temperature alert. You set a low temperature that you want the laser to alert you when it actually reaches that temperature. I guess very good for inspections as well. So if you do AC inspection, you need to reach a certain temperature on your AC vent, and this is a really handy tool. You don't have to you don't even have to look. You just point it at it. If it reaches this temperature, then yes, it's passed the inspection and things like that. So that's a low temperature alert. So the only thing annoying is the 15-second power on time is too short. It always turns off before I even need to use it again. So right now it's a low temperature alert. So when you turn it off and turn it back on, it remembers your last mode. You press again, that's a max. When you continuously pressing the trigger and measuring the area, it records the highest temperature measured or detected by the laser. It takes its measurements every 0.5 seconds. So 500 milliseconds, it takes one measurement. So every half a second, it gives you a new reading. And this max value records the highest reading. Of course, again, you have the lowest value. It records the lowest reading recorded if you keep pressing the laser button to scan the area. And the average is the average reading between your last couple measurements. So if your measurements is the same, then the measurements of the average is about the same. And the differential is the difference between your current reading and your last reading. So so over there I measured 76.5 and over here 76.2. So the difference is 0.3 Fahrenheit. So it just gives you that value, in between value. Over here is the I don't know how to call it, emissive, something like that, emissivity rating. So that little sign, that is actually because different surface temperature, because different surface have different reflectance of the heat wave. So you have to set this value to a correct value on the particular surface that you're measuring. So for example, the liquid have a certain value and the hardwood floor have a different reflective value. So those values, if you know, you can change it over here with this EMS setting over here. And so yeah, you really got to know the value to get the most accurate reading, but it shouldn't affect the reading that much. Usually people just leave it at, some laser just have a default value of 0.95. And I think that's the most common value that people put their EMS setting on. So there's that. And if you press the button again, it goes back to the high measurement alert mode. The button on the top, it have 3 different features. So it controls the backlight. You press it and the backlight actually stays on every time you turn on the machine. And you press it again, you turn off the backlight, and at the same time you see that little laser button disappear. So when you do the measurements, that laser doesn't turn on. So you have the option to turn that laser off, but I don't see any reason to turn that laser off. So I always leave it on. So again, you press it and it keeps the backlight on, but it keeps the laser off. And you press it again, it keeps the laser on, but the backlight off. So it's a multiple setting button. And the last setting for this button is if you long press it for 3 seconds, it switches from Fahrenheit to Celsius degrees. So really quick, I'm just going to switch back to Fahrenheit. So really good for international users who prefer, Celsius degrees instead of the Fahrenheit commonly used in the United States. So again, I bought this on Amazon, and I think so far it has proven to be very useful in our kitchen. Haven't used it on any other applications, but I don't think this unit is actually designed for cooking, but for the most part, it works just fine. Again, keep in mind that it only measures the surface temperature of the object that it's reflecting heat. So if you have a glass in between the object you want to measure, the laser just wouldn't do it. It's actually going to measure the surface temperature of the glass. And also, if you have, when you're cooking, you have lots of steam going out, you have smokes, those also affects your measurement. So also do keep that in mind. So that's pretty much it. It's a little handy tool to have. I think every home should have an infrared thermometer. You never know when you're gonna use it, but it's a very handy tool. So take a look. So the laser comes from the top and the bottom, and they're pointing to a spot that meets in the center. And inside there is the measuring lens, which they did a pretty good job of blocking the light. As you can see, it's really hard to see that little prism or the measuring sensor over there. So very good design. It uses 9-volt batteries. So to open up the battery, you basically just pry it open and it opens up, and the battery is in there. I'm using actually they came with a included battery, so that's also pretty nice. You don't have to spend extra money to buy the batteries. So again, I'll post a link below on where to get this little handy tool. If you guys have any questions about this particular model, feel free to ask me in the comments section, and I'd be happy to answer those questions for you guys.